What if the biggest problem holding Cardano back isn't the technology? What if it's us? Charles Hoskinson just laid out the real reason Cardano's DeFi is struggling, and his diagnosis points right back at the community. But what if that's all about to change? He's also revealed a new vision for 2025 that he believes will spark a crypto revolution. The real question is, are you ready for it? For years, the Cardano community has been defined by a deep belief in the project's long term vision. We've weathered bear markets, shrugged off critics, and patiently waited through the slow, peer reviewed pace of development. We held on to the promise of a blockchain built differently, designed for scalability, sustainability, and interoperability. We believed in the science, the mission, and the eventual success. But lately, a shadow has been looming, a persistent, nagging question we've all been asking in quiet corners of Discord and late night threads. Where is everybody? We see the explosive growth in other ecosystems. We see the billions of dollars in total value locked, or TVL, flooding into networks like Solana and Ethereum. And then we look at Cardano, a top 10 cryptocurrency by market cap, with a community holding billions of dollars in ADA, yet its DeFi landscape feels quiet, a little too quiet. The technology is powerful, the community is huge, the passion is obvious. So, what gives? Well, the founder of Cardano, Charles Hoskinson, just dropped a bombshell. In a series of candid, unfiltered statements, he didn't point his finger at flawed code or a broken algorithm. He pointed it directly at the Cardano community. He called it a human problem, a coordination problem. And by doing so, he has kicked off the most critical conversation in Cardano's history. But this isn't a story about failure. It's a story about a major pivot. Because in the same breath that he identified the issue, he unveiled the solution, a comprehensive, aggressive, and revolutionary roadmap for 2025. A plan designed not just to fix today's problems, but to build the financial operating system of tomorrow. A plan to finally close the gap between Cardano's immense potential and its on-chain reality. Here, we're going to unpack Charles Hoskinson's stunning admission. We'll dissect this human problem and explore why one of crypto's most loyal communities has been slow to jump into its own DeFi ecosystem. Then, we'll break down every single pillar of the new 2025 vision, from groundbreaking scalability solutions to ambitious initiatives like Midnight and RealFi that aim to connect Cardano to the global financial system. This is more than just another update. It's a call to action. It's the moment where Cardano decides if it wants to remain a philosophical project or become a global economic powerhouse. The pieces are being placed on the board for a massive shift. You'll want to stick around because you're about to understand exactly what that shift looks like and what it means for the future of your ADA. Let's start with the statement that sent ripples through the ecosystem. Charles Hoskinson, in his usual direct style, looked at the state of Cardano's DeFi and said the problem wasn't the tech, it was the people. Now, before you grab your pitchforks, let's break down what he actually meant. He wasn't blaming you, the individual holder. He was highlighting a systemic issue, a coordination problem that has created a paradox at the very heart of Cardano. So, what is this paradox? On one hand, Cardano has one of the most engaged communities in crypto. As of mid 2025, the network has over 4.8 million wallets. A huge portion of all ADE, around 67%, is actively staked, one of the highest rates of any major proof of stake network. There are over 1.3 million users actively participating in staking or governance, holding a collective value of over $15 billion worth of ADA. These aren't just vanity metrics. They prove there's a deeply committed user base that believes in the network. But here's the other side of that paradox. When you look at the main number for DeFi health, total value locked, or TVL, the picture is completely different. While multi-billion-dollar ecosystems are booming on other chains, Cardano's TVL has struggled, hovering in the low hundreds of millions. As Hoskinson pointed out, no other crypto asset in the top 10 with DeFi capabilities has a TVL that low. He bluntly posed a hypothetical: what if Cardano's own users, the same 1.3 million people staking and governing, were to actively use the native DeFi protocols? He theorized that the TVL would likely be at least $5 to $10 billion, not the couple hundred million it is today. And that's the human problem he's talking about. It's a classic chicken and egg scenario. Imagine a city with plenty of people and plenty of money, but no one wants to open a shop in the new town square because there are no customers. And no customers want to visit because there are no shops. In Cardano's DeFi, it's a similar loop. Big investors look at the low liquidity on decentralized exchanges, worry about slippage, where their large trades move the price and cost them money, and decide to stay away. Because those big players stay away, liquidity stays low. And because liquidity is low, the yields on these platforms often aren't as juicy as those found elsewhere, giving the average user less reason to jump in. Hoskinson asked the tough question: how can we ask Solana and Ethereum users to come and use our DeFi if our own users are not using DeFi? It's a question that gets to the heart of the community's frustration. Many have felt that Cardano, despite its advanced tech, has been left in the dust in the DeFi race. We've watched other projects, some with arguably worse tech, capture the market's attention and money while Cardano continued its slow, steady build. Hoskinson acknowledged the reasons for this hesitation. He mentioned a lack of technical know how, security worries, a clunky user experience on some dApps, and those uncompetitive yields. It's a mix of fear, uncertainty, and a lack of compelling reasons to make the leap. The result is a community of believers who are mostly just passively staking their ADA instead of actively using it. They're securing the network and participating in governance, but they haven't crossed the chasm to use DeFi and Cardano. This isn't just about bragging rights over TVL numbers. It's about the health and growth of the entire ecosystem. Low liquidity makes the network less attractive for developers. Why build a revolutionary DeFi app if there's no money to make it work? This stifles innovation and creates a self-fulfilling prophecy where critics label Cardano a ghost chain, even while it processes a significant number of transactions daily. So when Hoskinson called it a human problem, he was throwing down a challenge. He was saying the technology is ready, the foundation is built, but now the community, the developers, and the Cardano Foundation need to coordinate to solve this huge adoption puzzle. It's a moment of reckoning, and it's the crisis that has given birth to the most ambitious roadmap in Cardano's history. Before we get to the cure, the 2025 roadmap, it's important to see the full extent of the symptoms. Hoskinson's human problem is the big picture, but it shows up in a few specific, critical weaknesses in the Cardano DeFi ecosystem. The first and maybe the biggest symptom is the weak state of Cardano's stablecoin ecosystem. In DeFi today, stablecoins are everything. They're the safe asset during volatile times and the main currency used for lending, borrowing, and yield farming. Without a deep and trusted supply of stablecoins, a DeFi ecosystem just can't operate at scale. While Cardano has native stablecoins like USDM and USDA, their liquidity is thin. This makes it hard for users to get in or out in large amounts without messing with the price. The bridged versions of big players like USDC and UTST that exist on Cardano often aren't as deep or trusted as they are on their home chains, making it tough for users to build large positions. Think about it. Trying to build a multi-billion-dollar DeFi world without a deep stablecoin supply is like trying to build a global shipping network where everyone has to barter with different volatile goods instead of using a stable currency like the dollar. It's inefficient, risky, and it stops large-scale commerce in its tracks. The second major symptom is the developer experience. For all its security and peer-reviewed polish, building on Cardano has been tough. Its smart contract platform, Plutus, is based on Haskell, a powerful but difficult programming language with a steep learning curve compared to something like Solidity on Ethereum. This has been a barrier for developers. While Cardano has over 1,000 projects building in its ecosystem, the pace of innovation has felt slower than elsewhere. The tools and infrastructure for developers, though improving, have lagged behind. If developers can build and ship faster on another network, that's where the talent and new ideas will go. Cardano prioritizes getting things right, but the market often rewards getting things done fast. The third symptom is the direct result of the first two: a user experience that can feel clunky and disconnected. Because of low liquidity, users often face high slippage on trades. Because the developer ecosystem is still maturing, dApps can sometimes lack the polished feel of those on other chains. This combination can make trying out Cardano DeFi feel like a high-risk, low-reward game for the average person. When you put together a weak stablecoin ecosystem, a challenging developer environment, and a disjointed user experience, you get the exact situation Hoskinson described: a massive, passionate community that chooses to sit on the sidelines. They hold their ADA, they stake it for a safe return, but they hesitate to dive into the riskier, more complex world of on-chain DeFi. These aren't fatal flaws. They are, however, critical bottlenecks that have kept the network from hitting its true potential. Recognizing these symptoms is the painful but necessary first step. Now, let's turn to the comprehensive treatment plan that has been prescribed, the 2025 roadmap. All right, we've gone into the problem, and it's a big one. It's the core challenge that has defined Cardano for the last few years. But this is where the story turns. In a moment, we are going to break down the revolutionary 2025 roadmap that is designed to solve every single one of these issues. We're talking about huge scalability upgrades, an overhaul of the developer experience, and a strategy to inject massive liquidity. This is the key info you've been looking for. So if you're invested in Cardano or just curious about where one of crypto's biggest projects is headed, you won't want to miss what's next. Do me a quick favor. If you're getting value from this analysis, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You'll want to be the first to know as these developments unfold. Now, let's get into the solution. This is the pivot, the moment the story shifts from frustration to action. Charles Hoskinson didn't just point out the problem and walk away. He, along with Input Output and the Cardano Foundation, laid out one of the most ambitious roadmaps in crypto history. This isn't just a software update, it's a strategic shift designed to transform Cardano from a network with potential into a network with momentum. The 2025 roadmap is a direct response to the human problem and its symptoms. It's built on the idea that world class tech is useless without world class adoption. The plan marks a change in priorities. While the core principles of security and decentralization are still there, they are now being paired with a sharp focus on liquidity, developer experience, and user growth. The Cardano Foundation itself has said that it must evolve rapidly to keep up with DeFi and Web3. They are shifting their role from simply supporting the network to actively accelerating its growth. Think of the 2025 roadmap as a multi pronged attack on stagnation. Each part is designed to tear down one of the barriers we just talked about. First, a massive push on core technology to solve scalability, making sure the network can handle millions of users without slowing down. Second, a renewed commitment to the developer and user experience to make it easier and more attractive to build and use apps on Cardano. Third, and this may be the most important, a multifaceted strategy to solve the liquidity crisis. This involves everything from community led treasury proposals to creating new financial products and bridges to other blockchains. And fourth, a doubling down on Cardano's ultimate unique feature, decentralized governance. The roadmap aims to empower the community to direct the ecosystem's future, directly addressing the coordination problem by giving people the power to coordinate. This isn't just a list of vague promises. It's backed by concrete goals and major budget proposals. There are significant community proposals to use the Treasury for DeFi liquidity, with the Cardano Foundation also signaling its support. For example, there's a huge community proposal to allocate 50 million ADA from the Treasury just to boost stablecoin liquidity. The Foundation has also signaled its intent to delegate 220 million ADA to new decentralized representatives, or DREPs, to further decentralize governance. This is the sound of an ecosystem waking up. It's the moment Cardano stops just talking about its potential and starts executing a plan to achieve it. The philosophy is finally meeting the pavement. What we're about to explore isn't just a roadmap, it's a plan for a revolution. Now let's break down the pillars of that revolution and see exactly how Cardano plans to win. This is the core of the strategy, the how. We're going to break down the four fundamental pillars of the 2025 roadmap. Each one is a massive project, but together they form a plan to completely reshape the Cardano ecosystem. Pillar 1, fixing the foundation, unprecedented scalability and performance. The first pillar is about making sure the network's engine can handle the traffic of a global financial system. Cardano is moving beyond theory and implementing a multi-layered approach to achieve huge throughput. At the core of this is the next generation of Ouroboros, Cardano's consensus protocol. Think of a normal blockchain as a single lane road. No matter how fast the cars are, they all have to follow one another, creating a traffic jam. The next evolution of Ouroboros is designed to turn that single lane into a multi-lane superhighway by decoupling parts of the transaction process. This aims to dramatically increase the number of transactions the main chain can handle without sacrificing security. Then we have layer 2 solutions. First up is Hydra. Hydra is Cardano's state channel solution. You can think of it as creating private high-speed transaction lanes off the main chain. Each Hydra head targets speeds of up to 1,000 transactions per second. With 1,000 heads active, that leads to theoretical speeds that could approach a mind-boggling 1 million transactions per second. This is perfect for things like gaming, micropayments, or decentralized social media. The 2025 roadmap includes expanding Hydra's capabilities to support even more use cases. Finally, Cardano is embracing layer 2 rollups, both optimistic and zero knowledge, ZK. Rollups work by bundling hundreds of transactions together off chain and then posting a compressed summary to the main chain. This drastically reduces the load on the network. Hoskinson has specifically mentioned a beautiful plan for ZK rollups, which are heavily tied to the Midnight protocol. Recent and ongoing upgrades are paving the way for these advanced scaling solutions. Together, these upgrades create a scaling architecture that can support everything from massive enterprise apps to billions of individual user transactions. Pillar 2, building the tools, a world class developer and user experience. Scalability means nothing if no one builds on it. The second pillar is about making Cardano the most attractive platform for developers. This means big improvements to Plutus and Marlow, the smart contract languages. The goal is to lower the barrier to entry and give builders more powerful tools. Enhancements in Plutus, for example, are crucial for enabling the complex cryptography needed for ZK rollups. By making it easier and faster to build secure dApps, Cardano aims to attract a new wave of developers. This directly affects the user experience. Better tools lead to better apps. But the roadmap goes further with planned features like Babel fees. This simple but brilliant idea will allow users to pay transaction fees in any supported token, not just ADA. Imagine wanting to swap a token but realizing you have no ADA in your wallet for the gas fee. Babel fees would eliminate that friction, making the network much friendlier, especially for people coming from other ecosystems. Pillar 3, the fuel for the fire, a wave of liquidity and interoperability. This pillar directly attacks the DeFi problem. Cardano is launching an all-out effort to bring capital and assets onto the chain. It starts with two flagship initiatives, Midnight and RealFi. Midnight is being developed as Cardano's privacy-focused sidechain. It uses cutting-edge zero-knowledge proofs to allow for confidential smart contracts. This isn't just about hiding transactions. It's about enabling entire apps that handle sensitive data, like healthcare records or private financial agreements, without exposing it on a public ledger. Midnight is being designed as a bridge for institutional adoption, with a proposed token model and a goal to be both private and legally compliant. Then there's RealFi, or Real Finance. This is Cardano's vision to connect crypto with real-world economic activity. The goal is to use Cardano's infrastructure to provide financial services like microloans to people who are unbanked. One of the most exciting parts of this is the focus on tokenizing real-world assets, RWAs. This means representing physical assets like real estate as digital tokens on the blockchain. The Cardano Foundation has launched initiatives exploring RWAs, with pilot programs in the works. This could unlock trillions of dollars in real-world value and bring it on-chain. To fuel this fire, the roadmap includes an aggressive stablecoin strategy and treasury funding. A key part of the strategy revolves around using the on-chain treasury. There are major proposals being debated by the community to allocate tens of millions of ADA to purchase stablecoins and seed liquidity across DeFi protocols. Finally, there's a monumental push for interoperability. Cardano is actively working towards inter-blockchain communication, IBC compatibility. IBC is the gold standard for connecting blockchains, acting like a universal translator. This would open the door to the vast Cosmos ecosystem and dozens of other chains, creating a potential fire hose of new liquidity and users. And the biggest integration of all, Bitcoin. Hoskinson has outlined a plan to deeply integrate Bitcoin with Cardano, creating a new financial bridge. This would allow ADA, BTC, and stablecoins to flow between the chains, enabling Bitcoin holders to use their assets in Cardano's DeFi apps without having to sell their BTC. Given Bitcoin's massive capital base, this single integration could be a huge driver of new liquidity. So, what does it all look like when these pieces come together? What's the end game? Let's imagine a future where this 2025 roadmap is a success. First, picture a Cardano that is fast and cheap to use, with the next-gen Ouroboros handling thousands of transactions on the mainnet and Hydra powering millions more on layer 2, network congestion and high fees become a thing of the past. Sending value is as instant and affordable as sending an email. This unlocks entirely new kinds of apps, global micropayment systems, decentralized social media where every like is a microtransaction, and on-chain games that would be too expensive on other networks. Next, imagine a DeFi ecosystem that's deep, diverse, and full of liquidity. With treasury-funded stablecoin reserves and capital flowing in from the Bitcoin and IBC bridges, Cardano's TVL is no longer a few hundred million, but in the tens of billions. Decentralized exchanges offer razor-thin slippage, attracting professional market makers. Lending protocols are full of different assets, offering competitive yields and sophisticated financial products. But the revolution goes beyond just better DeFi. With Midnight operational, a new era of private compliant finance could begin. Large corporations could build on it using the privacy of ZK proofs while still being able to prove compliance to regulators. This could bring a wave of enterprise adoption that crypto has only ever dreamed of. At the same time, the RealFi and RWA initiatives could transform economies. A farmer in an emerging market could get a microloan for her business funded by a yield farmer in Tokyo with the transaction settled on Cardano. Fractional ownership of real estate could be tokenized and traded on a Cardano DEX, making high-value assets accessible to everyday investors. This is about using blockchain to create real economic opportunity. In this future, Charles Hoskinson's ambitious goal of reaching 10 million active users by 2030 starts to seem possible. The user base grows, driven by these real world use cases and a seamless experience from features like Babel fees. The community, now in control through the Voltaire governance system, acts like a decentralized venture fund, constantly funding the next generation of innovative projects from the treasury. The human problem gets solved. The community is no longer just passively staking, they are actively participating, building, investing, and governing. Cardano becomes a foundational layer of a new global financial and digital system, a hub for real world assets, a platform for private enterprise, and a tool for economic empowerment. This is the vision. It's audacious, complex, and success is not guaranteed. But for the first time, all the pieces, the technology, the capital, the strategy, and the community are aligning. The blueprint for the revolution has been drawn. So that's the story. We started with Charles Hoskinson's blunt admission. Cardano's biggest challenge isn't its code, but its community's coordination. We looked at the painful symptoms of that problem, the shallow liquidity, the developer friction, and the user hesitation that has kept its DeFi ecosystem from taking off. But we didn't stay there. We pivoted to the solution, the four pillars of the revolutionary 2025 roadmap. We saw how next generation scalability will create a network ready for global scale. We saw how a focus on developers and new financial primitives like Midnight and RealFi, fueled by major treasury liquidity proposals, aim to make Cardano the best place to build and invest. And we saw how the Voltaire era of governance puts the community in the driver's seat, finally offering a solution to the human coordination problem. This roadmap is Cardano's answer. It's a declaration that the era of slow, methodical building is now being combined with an era of aggressive, strategic growth. It is the bridge between the project's philosophy and the demands of the market. The vision is clear, a future where Cardano is the backbone for global finance, enterprise solutions, and economic empowerment. But a plan, no matter how brilliant, is only as good as its execution. And that brings us to the final most important question, which I'll leave with you. We've seen the problems and we've seen the plan. Is this roadmap enough to finally unleash Cardano's full potential and ignite the crypto revolution Charles Hoskinson envisions? Or are the challenges of adoption and competition too great to overcome? I want to know what you think. Is this the turning point for Cardano? Let me know your thoughts, your critiques, and your predictions in the comments below. This is one of the most important conversations we can have. And if you want to stay on the front lines of this revolution and get more analysis on the projects shaping the future of crypto, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.